I hadn't actually recorded a video for ages because I've been too busy doing other stuff. This is a message for Darren Spratt from WC21. I actually should get the video up because he's done a video about Castle Hill, which is the ancient site near us, but I never knew he was going to do it. Hold on a second. Let's move verbs out of the way a second. Okay, so here he is. Look, he's done a video of Castle Hill, right? So Darren, I thought I'd update you basically on Castle Hill because I don't know if you know the full story or not, and you should. And I haven't been making that many videos about it because I've actually been busy doing the writing and paperwork, and for plenty of other things as well. To do with mainly the government, holding the government to account, because there are quite a lot of revelations and findings that we've been making with help from Gemini 3.1, because it's actually really good for correlating information together and helping write strong, powerful letters, particularly when you're writing to the government. It's really, really helpful, right? So Darren, I guess I'll tag you in this video, and hopefully I did put a comment under your video, but I haven't been keeping up with the archaeology videos or the ancient sites videos, not even going on the groups at all, really, because I've been too busy doing other things. But I have been doing a little bit when it comes to the local council. Now, one thing you've got to realise with this area is Barry Shearman held that area under the Parliament constituency for a very long time. Barry Shearman has kind of been the flag bearer really for the Castle Hill, which falls under Huddersfield constituency, literally probably since as long as I've been born, really. And then Barry Shearman retired and was recently replaced. The area has been a Labour area. It's right in the middle of a working class area, although it's on the edge of the countryside, but it ties in with Hetman, Dwight and Dewsbury and Halifax and all these working class Labour areas. And although there have always been an independent presence in the area from independent people, it has been a Labour hold. Particularly in the last few general elections, it's just held solid Labour brick. Now, that's all just changed with the local council elections, which happened on I think it was the 7th of May? I think, 6th or 7th of May. Not one single council person has won a seat, right? Not one single seat from Labour has been won on the new map. I'll show you it. So this is the results from our area, right? This is for all of Kirklees, I think. So look, it's just been taken over by Reform, and the Labour Party have been completely and totally wiped out. Not one seat. There isn't even one Labour seat. Now, that is something to mention on a video about Castle Hill. I mean, okay, if your channel says, oh, we don't do politics, Castle Hill has been managed and upkept and looked after, and anything that's happened in the area has been down to Labour Party control, literally since I've been alive, right? You know, while Barry Shearman's been the MP in a Labour council, it has had flutters of the Tories, but literally, Labour has just been completely and utterly mown down. They haven't won one seat. Now, this is where we come to Castle Hill. One of the very last things that they did, one of the last things that the Labour Council has done, has passed that Tandy Partnership application, which has been kicking and knocking around backwards and forwards, on and off since 2004, right? Now, this is the thing. So, one thing that we need to know is that the Poet Laureate even came over from Leeds, that Simon Armitage even came over to oppose this development this time around. I didn't actually go to the hearing, I didn't go into the council to the hearing because I don't really like the council. I don't think local councils are very honest anyway, right? And even with the Poet Laureate there, apparently, I think it only got passed on one vote because it was the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee, who was a Labour, this Homewood guy, lad, youngish councillor. He actually ended up getting a casting vote because it was even, so it only got passed on one vote. Now that's important because there were the Lib Dems and the Greens were opposing the development, right? Now, so it was one of the last things that this Labour Party government have done in the council before they've been completely wiped out and obliterated. Now, if you actually search for the Tandy Partnership, it's dissolved. Now, it was the Tandy Partnership, Mick and Barry Tandy, who have been doing this project the whole way through. I think one of them dropped out of it, but the actual partnership that the development's registered in by name is that partnership is no longer, it's been dissolved, right? So the applicant, the group that applied for it aren't even existent anymore. So I don't know how that affects the planning consent, but this is when we get to me and the whole thing to do with the ancient site. Now, I done a lot of investigating online with help from Gemini 3.1, right? Because back in 2000 and 2004, they didn't have the legislation.gov.uk website, anything like they have got it now. And there were a lot less websites online. So you couldn't just go in and type up the law and look it up and learn about the law with a click of your fingers. Even back then, it was sort of like more like independent forums and groups. And, there were some websites, but not necessarily putting the whole law on there, right? So people just didn't know the law. Now, with that Tandy development, they got called out by the National Trust or English Heritage. They didn't have Historic England back then either, right? Because they broke the planning rules, and that's fact. It doesn't need to be questioned. They broke the planning rules. They did what they weren't authorised to do. And it's on a protected ancient site. And the council all the time were really sort of like trying to treat it as if it was just a normal development. Even though we've got this huge ancient site overlooking the town where the council are, and it's one of the most prominent features in the area, not that much happens on there because you can't do it on there. So the council aren't really dealing with that ancient archaeological area site. I think it's a 1979 Act or 1969 Act, right? They aren't even dealing with that act half the time because they don't really do anything with the site except that one Tandy thing. And I don't think the council were that clued in on the law on it, to be honest, back then, right? But that act is actually it's going to be even more protection than Greenbelt, right? You can't do anything on these sites. But the thing with this site is that it already had a few things there because of the pub in the very early 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, and then the Victoria Tower was in 1900, right? But other than that, there wouldn't have been anything on there. If those two things hadn't been put on there before 1959 or 1969, they wouldn't have ever got put on there. It would have been like Old Oswestry or Maiden Castle, right? It's only by them actually being before the act was passed. Now, what the Tandy Partnership actually did is a lot more damaging to the site than someone going with a metal detector. That law is the thing that makes metal detecting illegal if you go and metal detect and then dig up. I know people do go up Castle with metal detectors, but if you actually dig the soil up there with a metal detector, that's actually in breach of the act that's protecting the whole site, right? So that's the very minor end, the small scale end of that offence. The higher part of the offence is a 2-year prison sentence. Now, demolition of a whole building on that site when you're not allowed and having to be scraped and damaging the surface of the ground, that's not just a metal detector digging thing. It's the heaviest and most serious side of that offence, and it should attract 2 years in prison. Yet the council didn't prosecute them criminally, as far as we know from records we search. They were fined, and it was treated more like a planning breach, not criminal, right? Because if they'd been fined, then they would have it would have been agreed that they were criminals. Because if they did get the fine through that act as a criminal offence, then it's criminal. Now, council wouldn't be expected to continue working with people who were convicted of a criminal offence on an ancient site. They wouldn't even dream of doing business any further. But it wasn't treated criminally. Now, I've only learned about this act and the fact that the original act against the site was a crime, criminal. And people need to know that and understand it. And if the police, I reported to the police, but because the police, in modern day, police have a lot of close relationships with the council. They have these committees that they go on together, and they have a liaison officer, and they all want to be friendly and keep good rapport and, you know, keep up public image and all that. So if the police refuse to prosecute Tandy, then they're showing a lack of impartiality, and it needs to be. I don't know if anyone's had any serious prosecutions on a major site for breaking the act other than metal detecting offences, right? So we've got a serious issue between the council, and also when Tandy broke the planning consent, later on they ended up having to demolish the whole thing, but the council made the order. And I don't even find any evidence that the council actually first went back to Historic England, or, well, it wasn't Historic England at the time, it was the National Trust, right, English Heritage, to get consent to demolish it. From what I found in the records so far, it looks like the council were the ones who made the order, and then it just got demolished. So that's another further action without the consent required from the Secretary of State or government. Now, that's the council actually making a crime or a criminal offence, right? I'll just go back on to looking at your channel again, right? So from that point on, if you continue to work with people who are criminals and they've not been convicted, and you might even help them evade the criminal charge, that's actually perverting the course of justice. So we've got a really serious issue with a perversion of the course of the justice. And then all of the opposition to it and the petitions from various councillors and people and opposition, and then it's on, then it's off, then it's on, then it's off, and then they reapply the planning, and then they finally they passed it, yet it was passed for someone that the council failed to properly get convicted of a crime, of the offence, and they might have broken the law themselves. So it's actually, we're getting into concerted plans here, and if the police are trying to protect and defend and cover for the council, you got an even more serious offence there, right? Now, where is my part in it? I've been supporting the petitions that the councillors did. Bernard McGuinn did one, and Andrew Cooper did one, and I've done one myself, a few of them, right? Change.org and 38 Degrees. The 38 Degrees one got taken down unlawfully, but I had a backup petition on Change.org. And then I've been trying to get petitions on the government website, but they don't want us to put them on there. I've also petitioned and written to the Lisa Nandy, right? You know, the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport. Never actually got a response directly back from her. Now, I objected to all of the recent applications officially on the form online. All my applications are recorded there, but they're not just objections. The normal objections aren't a standard objection, because when you object to something that's on a protected site under the Archaeological Areas Act, you've got it's not like a normal planning objection. The council are trying to just treat it as if, oh, this is a normal planning objection with normal law. It's not. You've got Guardian of the Monument, which is a council are the Guardian of the Monument, but then you've got people who can have an interest in future ownership. Now, that interest in future ownership is our opportunity to say, hey, I might like to own that site in the future, or it to be kept as it is, and I don't want you to change it. And that's a valid use of that act, but it's not for the council to say, we'll accept it or not. If you use that, you're either using it or you aren't. And when you claim it and it's a valid claim, it has to be accepted. Now, the council just ignored it. Now, The thing is that in Scotland, they don't have that. In Scotland and Wales, they've got this thing where they can ask the HES, I think it's in Scotland, or CWID, I don't know how you spell it in Wales, it's CWDR or some weird spelling, the equivalent of Historic England in Scotland and Wales, it's HES or something like that in Scotland, right? If you want to protect a monument and you oppose something being done to it, you actually apply for a certificate and you actually get that certificate issued to protect it. Now, clearly you can petition for that certificate, one person or 10 people or 100 people or 200 people use that act to get the certificate to protect it, right? So it is a local form of petitioning to protect it, to obtain that certificate, right? So, and that's got actually nothing to do with the council making a planning order or not. If you get that certificate, the council can't pass anything, right? But in England, they didn't have it that way. They said, instead, we won't have these certificates. We'll give people the power to say, just a minute, I want that site to stay as it is. Anyone can do it, whether it's one person or many, but you've got to have a right of occupation. We have a right of occupation because it's public access 24 hours, right? So, and that's what I did on that form, and the council just blanked it and ignored it, right? And went ahead and that, if that chair of the council hadn't have voted to pass it, then it wouldn't have been passed. So it was on one person, but it shouldn't have even gone to that vote anyway. Now, the other thing is this. I did have petitions going on the e-petitions website, on the government's website, not on 38 degrees or change.org, right? Actually on the official government website. Now, this is where we get into some serious law with the council and the council legal services, Victoria Leam, right, who is the council legal officer for planning. And this is where we get into things that I've been researching that aren't necessarily just to do with ancient sites in our local area. The other subjects that I've been interested in, which is actually petitioning the government, election law, and all kinds of things like that, right? I beg your pardon. And so our right to petition, firstly, we're meant to be protected from prosecution when we're doing petitions, which is something that affects all these different protests going off around England. People are getting prosecuted illegally. And I've had to sort of like delve into the records to prove that, which I've put together a really strong study that's actually proved it all, which is a neglected area of law. Keir Starmer didn't even learn this when he trained to be a barrister. None of the main barristers study it because they haven't been taught it in the universities, but it's still the law and it's been ignored. So I've had to uncover all that. And then once you get the protections proved, it's not just that. You've got an act which backs up the Bill of Rights called the Parliamentary Papers Act 1840. Now, that Parliamentary Papers Act 1840, some people say it's only for Parliament to use or newspapers, right? But it's actually not. Lots of petitioners were using that act as well as the Bill of Rights because it's got a due process of law that you follow to get things validated in the courts, right? And it says you can get not only a criminal charge stopped, but civil. Now, the thing with civil is you don't only have tort in civil. You actually have council orders are civil. Like, the thing with the council at the moment is that in the late 70s, just before Barry Shearman became an MP, this is when they scrapped all the aldermen and the mayor models in the councils, and they had elected councillors and they had like committees, like head of the council, but they scrapped councillors being the justices and they scrapped the councils being, you see, the magistrates court, the criminal aspect was dealt by the council on a rota basis. So you would have like some of the aldermen would do a rota on the criminal panel, which is magistrates court, right? And when you're doing all these petitions and actions to Parliament and all these type of things like that, the council were intimately connected to the whole process. So if you've got any civil issues or matters between the subject and Parliament, the council actually would seal them off and put the council seal on it and approve them. So they were heavily involved in the referral to Parliament or petitions to Parliament. Now, when it comes to, when the council makes an order or a decision, they usually now are trying to make out that that's the end of it, and the only thing you can do is get a judicial review, right? Now, the applicant, like the Tandy Partnership or a railway company or the water company or someone building houses, they get the chance to appeal to those Whitehall, whatever. It's in Bristol, but they call it Whitehall. It's like the to do with the commission, and the applicant can appeal, but the people who object can't appeal. But this is if at a council level, and this is why no one will ever succeed objecting against houses being built, because when they allocate the land in the first place, that's the stage you need to try and stop them doing it. Because once the land's been allocated for building, at the later stage when they're doing the planning applications and everyone's objecting to it, you've got very little chance of winning at that stage because it's almost like it's already been decided. Now, how do you stop them allocating the land? Well, you petition Parliament and if you oppose the council. Now, this is where the private bill process comes in. There's meant to be a private bill process to Parliament where you can use that right to petition and get your own local laws sorted out, which can stop councils from doing things or give you the power to protect something, right? Most of it's dealt under the Acts now, under the Act itself, but this Act's not working. This Act's actually clearly not working, right? Now, there's no one doing these private bills anymore. The railway companies and the water board and the gas companies used to be doing them all the time, right? It's like the equivalent of us doing petitions. But also, we can petition, public petitions about local issues when it's to do with building and planning. They even made an act in 2010 called the Local Government England Petitions Order, and that is meant to exempt it from being regarded as a local matter, so you can petition Parliament about it, right? But they just kind of blanked it and ignored that. So I have actually done some petitions to Parliament, and when you do that, you're meant to be able to use that 1840 Act, which can stay and put an end to a civil order, a council order. Now, the council say, no, we don't believe this is a law, we think it's tosh, but I've got it all out. I've actually investigated it all and put together a brilliant paper on it, which is 1,700 pages, and we've got all the case study for it together, which proves it actually from National Archives. So they can't say that it's not the law, because it is. And it's our right to oppose a local authority. Like, the council's meant to vote and make decisions on what the voters do, but if they don't, then the voters can say, just a minute, this council has come to a decision that we don't agree with him, we want to oppose this council, and we want the government to put legislation through which stops them from doing it, right? And you can do that. So what's the problem there? Well, the problem there is that the e-petitions site for House of Commons are rejecting everyone's petitions. And it's got worse since 2010. And they've even got bots that have got looking for keywords to automatically reject petitions. Apparently, no one even sees these petitions. And the ones that do get accepted, which is less than, like, I think it's 10% of them, or less than 5% get debated, they're actually doing this shadow ban thing, which is that the ones that they show rejected aren't all of them. They're only a small fraction. And the ones that they do reject, they're giving false and misleading excuses on why they've been rejected, which is propaganda and puts people off. So the whole thing is a scam at the moment. And the policy which they base the whole rejection on comes from 10 Downing Street. It was never voted on in Parliament. It affects the rights and liberties of the subjects. And according to the law of Parliament, anything which affects the right and liberties of the subjects directly has to have a vote on it. It's never had a vote on it. They voted on having debates in Westminster Hall, and that was it. It's meant to be dealt with through standing orders, and they're meant to be judicial matters, right? So it's all illegal against serious constitutional law violations, and it's all strategic. They don't want us to have democratic control. They want full executive control of the government. And the debates that we see in Parliament is apparently less than 10% of laws getting put through. All of the laws that get put through are all the executive orders which just get put on the table in Parliament. And if no one objects to it because they're all under the whip, right? Labour and Tory under the whip, right? It gets automatically passed. Now, that's... this is serious now because it's called usurpation or usurpation of government, which means taking over government and taking our rights away without the proper authority, right? So this is sort of where we are with it. And that's quite serious. And I actually did everything on paper which was required to have been done in order to get that order nullified and overturned. And that's what I'm arguing with this Victoria Leam about now at Kirklees Council. And people need to know the situation and what's going on. Or at least people in the circles of ancient sites, because any of the sites could be under threat from a local council like Old Oswestry or Stonehenge or Maiden Castle, not just ours. And it's important to believe my words and have faith in what I'm saying that is true. I can show you all, I can send you all the documents for it, right? But I'm just trying to, this is merely a brief. It's not like take my word for it. It's like I'm trying to just throw a brief kind of like, spread of the whole thing. And these local councillors, when Labour just lost, the Conservatives were pushing leaflets through letterboxes which had police advocating their campaign, which is totally illegal because, the 3 Tory councillors in our area posted those leaflets through. There's an offence called illegal police canvassing where the police aren't allowed to advocate or get involved in political campaigns for elections. It's Section 100 of the Representation of the People Act 1983. And I reported that crime to the returning officer and to the election, and I don't even know if anything's been done about it. But then again, Andy Burnham's running for, claiming that he's going to run for being an MP and Prime Minister, but he was a returning officer for Gorton Denton. Now I'm dragging you into election law where all of the main parties haven't been paying their digital permits since at least 2007. And there's all that as well. And then we're going into Nigel Farage and his helicopter, which you can't deny that because it's been in the news, right? So if I just told you, Nigel Farage has, been scamming his heliport things, you wouldn't believe me. And you'd say, oh, yes, so what? And shrug. But it's in the news. And it's an official thing. And the news have been complaining about Farage doing it, right? So, I'm not, WC21 is trying to raise the profile of his page so he can have an amazing popular channel. My channel's there just because I wanted to try and protect the site and try and teach people about it and get people interested in it and learn about it. And the site needs to be protected, right? So this is my update. I guess I will tag Adam Ibbotson as well and, a few of the other channels. But I haven't really been on those groups because I've been doing all this law stuff. So seeing as, Darren has put this video up with our ancient site in it, I thought I'd update Darren. I don't know whether you're going to fall asleep listening to this or get irritated by my voice or whether you managed to get through it or not. But I would swear on earth that everything that I've said, I've checked thoroughly and is correct and true, right? What can be done about it? Well, firstly, we need they committed a crime against that site. The Tandy Partnership committed a very serious crime against the whole site itself, which is a 2-year prison sentence crime. The council covered it up for being a serious criminal matter. And then the demolition of the pub, which everyone was annoyed about, that was done unlawfully, I believe. but that's the only thing that needs checking up on. But then the council continued doing business with criminals, and then ended up passing the order just before Labour was completely wiped out from the whole thing, which is it's actually probably, the demolishing of the pub is significant because lots of local people were annoyed about it, right? But Labour Party wanted that visitor centre on for ages as part of the town centre redesign to fit in with the whole suit of the council, like a plain deck of cards. They wanted the Castle Hill ancient site to have things on it that match the whole town centre redevelopment. And you're not meant to build anything on these ancient sites. So I've done a new petition, actually, which is actually asking for that act of law to be amended. The ancient monuments and it's called the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Areas Act 1979. Sorry, I said 59, 69. It is 79, right? So that act's probably only as old as Barry Sheeman has been on the council for. Probably around that act is a little bit after they got rid of the aldermen model in the council. But when they scrapped the aldermen model in the council, it messed everything up, because when you're engaging with Parliament, the council were heavily involved in it, particularly when it comes to things like orders, making orders and passing orders and things like that. So I thought I'd mention it. So like that's it. If you're not interested, fair enough. But it's quite important. We need to get this Victoria Leam to overturn that order. It says in the Parliamentary Papers Act 1840, if you read it, it says either a judge or the court. Well, when that they used that was 1840, yes. So it would have been one of the aldermen in the council who overturned it. But now they don't have aldermen, really. It's like the councillors vote on it, kind of a little bit like justices did, and then it sort of just gets put through, doesn't it? But it says the court. So that means the council chamber. That means that the council chamber, as a judicial body that makes civil orders, can overturn it. It doesn't have to be particularly an alderman or a judge. So this is what I'm arguing with this Victoria Leam now, that order needs to be nullified, because I petitioned Parliament about it and the matter had been raised and to Parliament, and we've got issues with them publishing these petitions. Not just me, everyone in the whole country. This is not like, oh, I'm the only person having this trouble. Everyone in the whole country is having this trouble because 90% of them are being unlawfully rejected by bots on keywords, and it's a judicial process. You can't have a bot checking a petition to Parliament. Sorry, we've got a bit of a blockage in my nose. So you can't have a bot checking it, because it's like you wouldn't have a bot checking a magistrate's court complaint, and you wouldn't have a bot checking a civil complaint in the High Court. It has to be a human. And this is what Parliament are doing. Well, they've lost the plot with Tony Blair's online petition process. And while the policy is illegal, it's never been voted through by the House at all, ever. Yet it affects our rights and liberties because it's going to be dealt with through standing orders of Parliament, like a court. Your MP signs it, then it gets put in front of the Speaker, and it gets put down in votes and proceedings. And they've bypassed and evaded all that. And the staff are saying, oh, well, there's too many petitions to deal with. Well, what's the point of having a technological, modern, state-of-the-art site? They were dealing with 30,000 petitions a year or so in the 1800s on paper, right? And the clerks didn't moan about it then. It's kind of like a lazy... The clerks of Parliament are almost like a McMenu kind of staff at the moment, and we've got an administrative corporate takeover of government. Oh, yeah, and I must mention to you, the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman website has also got this blockage where it's been designed to capture complaints. If you don't download it as soon as you finish it and you want to download it later, it cuts off and you can't download it and your MP can't sign it and it gets blocked and ball-necked. And with both, if you got a complaint against the police or you know, the NHS or a government department that's very, very serious, who can you go to for help? You would really try to petition the government or go to the ombudsman. Now, by capturing digitally those two entities, you've got nowhere to help you. I mean, if the police laugh at you and the professional standards of the police don't do anything, and the IPCC or whatever it's called don't do anything, which half of them who work there are all ex-police, right? According to Graham Moore, right? Who can you ask to help you? And this is when we get into what is happening at the moment with all this digital ID and the computer systems and the administrative, like Tim Moss, who's running DVLA, and all these other things. They're implementing this digital model, but they've blocked by the aspects of the digital model they're introducing. They've blocked and locked us off from being effective to use that to stop them implementing the digital model, if you see what I mean. So this is why I'm supporting Big Brother Watch and these campaigns that are against all this surveillance and digital ID, because the systems they're implementing, they're already cheating with them and censoring and blocking us from them introducing that system. And it's people like Tim Moss in the DVLA who are responsible for it, who have helped design it, and the people who designed Boxed In, you know, the e-petitions website and the Ombudsman website. They're all connected together, these people. And this is why I'm against all this digital takeover. Ironically, it's the Google Gemini that I just discovered like a month or two ago, which has helped me to put all my research together, when I don't even really advocate AI. But I've had to use it because if I hadn't have used it, I wouldn't have been able to discover all this law and get it verified and checked and everything like that. So I don't know if you're going to fall asleep or not, but, you know, if you are interested in ancient sites and care about them, we need to do something about this. Our site doesn't get anywhere near as much care or public attention as like Maiden Castle or Old Oswestry or Stonehenge, although Stonehenge has had its own troubles and problems with that stupid tunnel project, which has managed to be stopped, and they did get that overturned eventually. So I just thought this is like an update, really. I haven't been able to do much to do with, you know, going to ancient sites or even researching them, but I've managed to do the legal side and aspect of it. So that's the update. Thanks.